there are people that are saying that they're enlightened, and you can bet your bottom dollar they're not enlightened. So, just because you tell yourself that you're enlightened doesn't mean that you're enlightened. So either way, it doesn't really matter. Or, just because I imagine, oh, okay, I'm already enlightened, so I don't have to do anything. Yes, that sounds like a lovely idea, but in the next moment, you'll just be confused again and worried or afraid, or, don't, don't understand something, don't know what to do. So that is the way that you can check whether you need to be more vigilant or be more mindful, is to see what mental states are arising in your mind. If you're still getting angry about little things, obviously you're not enlightened. If you're feeling impatient or frustrated or stressed, or even getting overly excited about certain things, or addicted or attached to various things, then these are not hallmarks or traits of enlightenment. So it does indicate that we do have some path ahead of us, or we still have things to learn. So we need to be careful that we don't that our ego isn't just jumping on this and saying, oh, I'm already enlightened, I don't need to do this or that, or even by the same token saying, oh, I'm never going to get there, the path is so long, and it's going to take me 10,000 lifetimes or something. We don't need to think in that extreme either. So something the potential for enlightenment is always present. So if and when we do calm and clear our mind, and we experience the purity of the present moment, that is an access to enlightenment. It is an enlightening experience. It is temporary. And then again, the ego will jump on that and go, oh, I'm going to tell my teacher I had this experience, or I'm going to write it down and write it in a book or whatever. So in this way, we can see that we can have an enlightenment experience in the present moment, just as ordinary people. We do some meditation technique, or we calm the mind, or even we fall into a calmness or stillness or clarity, and we can have a very beautiful experience. But then we then have to be careful of the ego that wants to grab onto that and say, either go one way or the other. Oh, I'm already enlightened, or I've got so far to go that it's, I'm never going to get there. So either way, whatever happens, we need to keep watching the mind and the shenanigans of the ego.
People talk about instant enlightenment and then gradual enlightenment, and there's always this kind of conversation about, how they stack up against each other. So I want to ask, what do you think about this? And have you met some people which you truly and honestly believe are enlightened? And can you talk to me about that?
I'm not so sure about the instant enlightenment. Eckhart Tolle's experience is quite interesting. He did go through a lot of depression and sort of hit rock bottom, and then thought he couldn't go any further. But when he did, he kind of came out of the depression. But then it took him a long time to integrate and understand what had happened to him. So was that instant enlightenment, and then had to have a gradual path of the mind maturing and kind of catching up to that experience. my experience, as I said, is really quite slow, and I'm not saying I'm enlightened. I'm on a path, and who knows? It could, enlightenment could happen even while having this conversation. So, the people that I have met that I believe are enlightened, they were Buddhist monks when I was a Buddhist monk myself, and it was in Myanmar. And the general consensus of the society was that these monks were enlightened. When I met them, I felt that one characteristic that I can say that I felt that they had was like they were kind of transparent, almost like they were present, but they weren't present. I mean, they were obviously present and very sharp and clear in their mind, but it was almost as if they weren't of this world, almost as if they were spirit or spiritual. Another way is kind of almost like a hologram kind of experience, that they're here, they're talking, they're doing everything that we know that human beings do, but in a way there was something very mystical, something very, but there was something absent. And I think what we could say was absent was perhaps the sense of self, the ego, or the idea of something that is permanent, or something that is, indestructible, or something like that. So that was the experience I got when I met people that I feel were enlightened. They were, go ahead.
That's very curious, because I've heard almost the same thing by Ram Dass when he would talk about Maharaji, whom he studied with. He would say that when he looked into Maharaji's eyes, he would just see vast emptiness. Like, these were his words. So it's very interesting that it's essentially what you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah. It's quite, it's very mystical, actually, that someone is there but they're not there. And in a way, mostly in English, when we hear this, that somebody's not there, it sounds like it's a negative term or something, but in this sense it's not that. It's another thing that I can say is that there's nothing that you could blame this person for. It's like they're just not doing anything wrong. They're in a pure form. And maybe it's the spiritual nature, the sort of angel or angelic nature of them that is really present, rather than the hard form of the physical body. Or perhaps it's just, as I said, the ego, that conditioned personality just isn't there anymore, and it's light, it's clear, it's like the wind. So it's a beautiful thing.
So were these the monks that were the most kind of experienced, who had done the most meditation, who were the most senior?
They were, all of the ones that I did meet were quite elderly. And I did ask myself, was it just because they were old? But it's not. There are those characteristics that I mentioned, and there's a sense that you have about them, because I met others that people certainly said were enlightened, and when I met them, I didn't think at all that they were enlightened. They seemed heavily in their body, and that they were concerned about, various things and what was going on, etc. So yeah, there's this also this, I don't know, a sense. But they say that only an enlightened person can know another enlightened person, which means that I don't really have much hope of knowing whether someone's enlightened or not. But perhaps we all have this ability to sense something special in someone, and especially that absence of perhaps what Eckhart Tolle would call the pain body, was that perhaps there's an absence of that dense, heavy pain body, and so what is left is the beautiful light body, the body of light. Yeah.